How was your day? Was it heavy, or did the world seem to move just a bit too fast again? Maybe you're here because you need a pause, or maybe you're drawn to the strange comfort that only darkness brings. Either way, welcome. I'm glad you pressed play. Tonight I'll take you somewhere quiet, somewhere forgotten. You are about to descend into the surface layer of something deeper than most dare to explore. This is Tier 1 of the Iceberg, where the water is still shallow enough to pretend it's not cold, where the stories are familiar enough to laugh at, and yet they cling to the back of your mind long after the telling ends. These are the tales we all think we know, the ones we share at sleepovers, whisper across campfires, or pass around in grainy forum posts and late-night videos. But repetition doesn't dull their edge. In fact, the more often a story is told, the more real it becomes. These aren't just urban legends. They're warnings. They're reflections of something festering beneath everyday life. A room you should never stay in. A ritual you should never try. A name you should never say aloud. They live on the surface because that's where they lure you in. But once you listen closely, you'll realize nothing truly terrifying ever stays hidden for long. And sometimes it's not the deep that gets you. It's what floats just beneath your feet. Take a breath. Settle in. The iceberg awaits. Think of horror like an iceberg. What you see at the top, the well-known legends, the creepy stories passed around like urban myths, that's just the tip. Beneath it lies a cold, heavy mass of fear. The deeper you go, the harder it is to tell what's real. Tier 1 is where we start, the surface. The stories you think you know until you hear them again properly. Story 1, Bloody Mary. There's something unsettling about mirrors, especially at night. Not because of what they show, but because of what they don't. You glance into one and expect a perfect reflection, but late at night, with only a dim light or the flicker of a candle, the human mind begins to fill in the spaces. Shadows deepen, eyes seem to twitch when you haven't moved, and the image looking back feels off. This is where the legend of Bloody Mary lives. Not in broad daylight, but in the in-between hours when the world is most still and silent. The legend says that if you stand in front of a mirror in the dark and whisper her name 3 times, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, something will happen. Some say she appears. Some say she screams. Others say she reaches out. But everyone agrees on one thing. If you see her, you're no longer alone. The story varies. In some versions, she's the spirit of a vengeful woman executed centuries ago, cursed to remain between worlds. In others, she's a witch, punished for her dark rituals, or a mother who lost her child and now roams reflections in grief. But stories aside, what matters is what people feel when they try it. A chill on the neck, a flicker in the candle, a second face in the mirror that wasn't there before. Most laugh afterward, some run. A few can't look in mirrors the same way again. The real fear isn't Bloody Mary herself. It's the moment after the third whisper, the silence, the breath you hold, the realization that you've just asked something to come find you and you don't know what kind of answer it might give. Story 2. Room 1408. They say there's a difference between a haunted room and a cursed one. A haunted room has ghosts. A cursed room has something worse, something that doesn't need a face or a name to be feared. Room 1408 is that kind of room. At first glance, it's just another upper floor suite in a downtown hotel. Neutral tones, beige carpet, a window that overlooks the skyline. The kind of place you pass through on business. Maybe write a postcard you'll forget to send. But behind the door, marked 1408, there's a silence that doesn't feel empty. It feels aware. The hotel keeps it listed, but they rarely assign it. Guests sometimes insist on it. Mostly skeptics, thrill seekers, or those writing articles about the paranormal. They check in with a grin and jokes about ghosts. Most check out early. A few don't check out at all. The rumors are plentiful. Sudden temperature drops, radios turning on without power walls that seem to shift slightly in your peripheral vision. But none of that is what makes the room dangerous. It's the way it knows you, the way it listens. It doesn't attack. It waits. Waits until you're alone, until your phone dies, until the window fogs and your reflection doesn't move. When you do, there was once a writer who stayed there, determined to disprove the room's reputation. He recorded everything. Lights flickering, phone static, a sudden scream from inside the bathroom when no one else was there. He checked out the next morning, pale shaking, and never published a word of what happened. Some say the room doesn't trap spirits. It feeds on attention, on belief. It changes based on what you fear most, which means the room isn't haunted by what's already happened. It's haunted by what you bring into it. That's why it's never the same for any two guests, and why, no matter how quiet it seems, room 1408 is never truly empty. Story 3. The Curse of the Hope Diamond. Some treasures shine too brightly, not because of their beauty, but because of what they've taken to earn it. The Hope Diamond is one such treasure. Sitting behind glass in the Smithsonian, it draws in crowds every day. Its deep blue glow mesmerizing, almost hypnotic. But this jewel carries something else behind that brilliance. A history drenched in misfortune, betrayal, madness, and death. They say it was once plucked from the eye of a Hindu idol, stolen by a man who never made it out of India alive. Some say the diamond was cursed from that very moment. Others say the curse followed the greed, not the stone. Either way, its path through history is littered with misfortune. French merchant Jean-Baptiste Tavernier brought the stone to Europe and was later torn apart by wild dogs. The diamond then found its way to King Louis XIII and Marie Antoinette. You know how their story ends. Guillotines don't lie. Another owner, a wealthy heiress, lost her family one by one to illness, suicide, and insanity. A Turkish sultan who owned the stone had his concubine murdered. A Greek jeweler who held it went bankrupt and lost everything. And still, the diamond passed from hand to hand like a secret, too dangerous to keep yet too valuable to give up. Today, it sits protected behind bulletproof glass. But that doesn't mean the curse is over. Some say the curse only sleeps when no one owns it. The placing it on display didn't stop the darkness. It just made the audience bigger. The true horror of the Hope Diamond isn't just in the stories it left behind. It's in the silence surrounding it now. Because sometimes a curse doesn't shout. Sometimes it just waits for you to forget so it can begin again. Story 4. Slender Man. He doesn't chase you. He doesn't scream. He doesn't even move. Not when you're watching. Slender Man isn't horror that lunges from the shadows. He is the shadow. Tall, faceless, and dressed in a black suit. He appears in the corner of old photographs, behind playground fences, or deep in the woods where the trees grow too close together. No one remembers the first time they saw him. That's how he works. He's not a thing you meet. He's a thing that's always been there, watching, waiting. He was born from a forum post in 2009, a simple entry into a Photoshop contest. A pale figure lurking behind children, too tall, too still. But something about him resonated. The internet took him in, and like a virus he spread. Stories multiplied. He stalked forests, abducted kids, whispered things no one else could hear. He wasn't just a meme. He became modern folklore. Parents found strange drawings in their children's notebooks, long arms, black tentacles, no face. Some said they saw him outside their windows at night. Others said they heard their children talking to someone who wasn't there. And then the real horror began. A stabbing in the woods by two young girls who claimed they did it for him. Slender Man had crossed over. He was no longer just pixels. He was belief. That's the terrifying thing about him. He's not built on evidence. He's built on fear, on the need to give shape to something we can't explain. And like any good story, the more we try to forget him, the deeper he burrows into our culture, our nightmares, our history. He's not just a monster. He's a reflection. Tall, silent watching, and you'll never know he's there until it's too late to look away. Story 5. The Elevator Game. It starts with a building, at least 10 stories tall, quiet, unassuming. You enter alone late at night when no one's watching. You press the buttons in a specific sequence. 4, 2, 6, 2, 10, 5, 1. If done correctly on the 5th floor, a woman may enter. You must not look at her. You must not speak to her. If you do, something happens. No one who breaks the rule ever explains what. They say you'll know you succeeded if at the end of the sequence, the elevator takes you to a place that's not listed on any panel. A place called the Other World. It looks like your world. Same hallways, same floors, same windows. But everything is different. The lights are dimmer. The air feels heavier. You'll know it when you feel it. The rules say you're not supposed to step out, but some do, and some never return. Those who claim they've been there say the windows show a blood-red sky, and if you look too long, something looks back. There are no sounds, no wind, no voices, just an overwhelming feeling that you're being watched, that you don't belong, that you were never meant to arrive. The Elevator Game didn't start as an urban legend. It came from online forums, whispered instructions passed around like rituals. But after the death of Elisa Lam found in a water tank after last being seen acting erratically in an elevator, the game took on a darker life. Some say she played it, some say she made it back, but not alone. The true horror of the Elevator Game isn't the other world itself. It's the idea that something so simple, so accessible, just an elevator and a few button presses could open a door you were never supposed to find. And worse, a door that doesn't close behind you. Story 6. Annabelle, the Doll. Some things aren't scary because of how they look. They're scary because of what they carry. Annabelle is a raggedy doll, red yarn, hair button, eyes faded, smile. You've probably seen the Hollywood version, the porcelain face figure locked in glass. But the real Annabelle doesn't look like that, and she doesn't need to. She's not dangerous because she's frightening. She's dangerous because she's a vessel. According to the Warrens, the famed paranormal investigators, Annabelle was given to a young nursing student as a gift. At first, it was just a doll. It sat in the bed sometimes in the chair, but then things started moving. Notes written in crayon appeared around the apartment. Doors opened on their own. One night, the doll had moved across the room without anyone touching it. A psychic told the girls it wasn't a ghost. It was something darker, pretending to be one. Something that wanted permission to stay, and they gave it that permission. The Warrens intervened, taking Annabelle into their possession. But even behind holy glass, in a locked case marked, positively, do not open, the stories didn't stop. Visitors mocked the doll and got into car accidents on their way home. One man tapped the glass and laughed. He died hours later. Others felt faint just being in the same room. The Vatican refused to acknowledge it, but priests still prayed over it just in case. What makes Annabelle terrifying isn't just that she moves or that bad things happen around her. It's that she doesn't speak, doesn't blink, doesn't act. And yet the moment you see her, you feel it. That pressure in the air, that twinge in your stomach, that whisper that says something is here with you, still watching, waiting. and smiling with sewn lips. Story 7. Candle Cove. They say memory is unreliable, that our childhood recollections are distorted by time and suggestion. But what if the gaps in memory aren't your mind? Forgetting what if something didn't want you to remember? Candle Cove is a story that began on an old internet forum. Users shared memories of a strange children's TV show they all seemed to recall watching in the 1970s or 80s. The puppets were crude. The animation was jerky. Dialogue was odd, sometimes not matching the characters' mouths. But the most disturbing thing was the villain, the Skin Taker. A skeletal figure with a top hat and a mouth full of human teeth, always grinding side to side, even when he wasn't speaking. The show always felt off. Not quite scary, just wrong. As the forum users dug deeper, the coincidences multiplied. No one could find any footage, no network records, not even VHS tapes. Some remembered a specific episode where all the characters just screamed for the full runtime. Others recalled static, then flashes of their own names whispered softly. One user asked their mother about it. She said, "You used to just sit in front of the TV watching static." You kept saying, "Candle Cove is on." That's when it stopped being a nostalgic thread. It became something else. A suggestion that the show never existed on television at all, that it was projected into their minds. Or worse, that it was real, but meant only for them. Candle Cove became more than a creepypasta. It became a mirror for shared trauma. A reminder that sometimes the things we all remember aren't collective memories, they're collective warnings. And that maybe the scariest part of childhood wasn't what we imagined, but what we were made to forget. You've made it to the end of the surface. Strange, isn't it? These stories, so well known, so often repeated, still have a way of crawling under your skin. Maybe it's because they never really end. Maybe they're not stories at all, but warnings. We've dressed up as entertainment. A reflection of our fears mirrored in playground games, hotel rooms, cursed objects, and figures standing too still in the dark. You've heard them before. You might have even laughed at them once. But something happens when you sit with them long enough. The laughter fades, the pattern appears, and what was once a campfire tale starts to feel personal, more real. Like the story isn't being told to you, but about you. That's what the first tier does. It doesn't scare you outright, it plants seeds. Familiarity, repetition, it lingers. And now that you've listened this far, you've taken them with you. They echo in your thoughts. They twist in quiet corners of your day. You walk past a mirror and pause, just for a second. You enter a hotel room and check the number without thinking. You hear static on the radio and wonder if it's just interference or something else. But this was only Tier 1. The surface. A gentle warning. The tales that are easy to share at sleepovers in Reddit, threads, or on Halloween nights. The ones that live in the light. What lies beneath is colder, quieter, harder to explain. Down there, logic starts to unravel, names disappear, timelines blur. And the fear. It's quieter but heavier, the kind that doesn't scream. It just stays. You've survived the surface, but survival comes with a price. Because now you know these stories, and stories have weight. They echo in the hallway, light, in the back of your reflection, in the space between dreams and waking. And once you've looked at the iceberg, really looked at it, you can't pretend it's just water anymore. The descent has just begun. In Tier 2, we go deeper into the unexplained, the unsolved, the redacted. So rest now, clear your thoughts, and when you're ready, press play again.